What is your name?
Vic Jeffries,
And when did you serve?
from 1961 to 1989.
Were you in the Army?
Air Force.
Air Force. What was your position in the Air Force?
I was aeronautical engineer, structural engineer, aircraft maintenance.
Why'd you enlist in 1961?
Well, I just graduated from college, and I knew I'd probably be called up, so I wanted to pick my service. Air Force was the only service that guaranteed I would have a job with what I'd been trained to do.
So you served for a very long time. I'm sure you did lots of different jobs. What was your favorite job that you did in the Air Force?
Well, I did a lot of crash and metal damage repair in Vietnam, and that was nice to put something back together. I spent several years traveling for whenever the airplanes would go down all over the world to go and try to make them flyable.
What was your favorite airplane to work on?
C-130s.
What was the most resilient airplane that
F4. F4 was, I'm not saying it was indestructible, but it could sure take a lot of damage and come home. That was a great airplane.
Did you ever get to fly in the planes too?
I flew in a lot of them. In fact, where I worked, when I would go overseas, when I was stationed in the States, the rule was I had to fly back in the plane I fixed. That was my boss's rule. So
Wow.
we made darn sure that it was flyable. The interesting one I had was a C-141 ran off the runway in Munich, Germany at the international airport. And it was muddy and all that mess, so I always had a backpack, so I was called about 3 in the morning and said, get to the flight line, you gotta go to Munich and work on that airplane. So we went down there and we stopped in Dover, Delaware and picked up a maintenance crew and flew into Munich. And we pulled it out of the crud. And the landing gear was kind of messed up a little bit, so we needed to do some more tests. But I figured it was safe to fly to an Air Force base at Wright, Maine. So we chained it down and flew to Wright, Maine. We did some work there, and it was still shaky but safe. But I didn't allow any cargo on board. And it was kind of funny because the maintenance crew, the sergeant in charge said, he said, Captain, you said no cargo, but we're flying back on. I said, yeah. He said, would it bother if I had a little beer? And I said, no. He said, well, we thought we'd go buy a couple of cases of this German beer take home. Well, what the crazy guys did, they stopped a beer delivery truck and bought every damn case on there. And I don't know how many cases of beer that they brought back, and we flew it back with the landing gear down. And when we got, I said, well, you know, we have to pay customs on this. And he said, that's no problem. He said, I live next door to the customs agent. And he said he will take beer in lieu of cash.
Nice.
And then I brought a case home myself, so it was fun. Vietnam was different. We went in some very interesting areas. One plane, I was in this little base, kind of a remote base. C-130 had been shot up, and we repaired it. It was ready to go, and a rocket attack came and blew it up after all the work that went in it.
Wow.
So sometimes you have some good stories and some bad, but I liked all the people there. I ran into some really marvelous folks, and what was funny, that was 1969. About 10 years ago, I was at a friend's house, and he was sitting with this fellow, and I looked at him, and I said, you know, you look familiar. He said, you do too. He was in my same unit in Vietnam, and it was a small unit. We only had 4 officers and about 20 enlisted men. So it's kind of a small unit to run into.
That's pretty
somebody
crazy, yeah.
After all, and we struck up, you know, friendship, and we started going to Florida. Our families going to Florida together. Did that for about 10 years till his wife passed. But it was, you make some great friends.
What was the most fearful you were in Vietnam? Do you remember any specific incident?
Well, when we were working on that C-130 at that semi-remote base, when we came under rocket attack, that wasn't a whole lot of fun.
Vic, any other stories you'd like to add?
I had a good career. I'd do it all over again. No problems.
Thank you, Vic, for your service.
Thank you.